So thankfully, we didn't miss too much, right? So thank you very much, Chris. So we need to really be able to convey to people what our purpose is, why we care, why we do what we do, because people buy into that, right? And then why is value proposition so important? The crickets are killing me.
It's what differentiates you from the others, so they want to do business with you instead of somebody else.
That's definitely part of it. Thanks, Brian. Right? Is one, what differentiates me from anybody else? Because at the end of the day, there's a million real estate agents that can help you do what you need to do. But it's taking things like your own experiences, your own background, your experience both in and out of real estate, that are going to help them achieve the things that they want to achieve. Because at the end of the day, most people don't care if you go in there on a listing appointment, beat your chest saying, I've won all these awards, I'm a top agent, I'm awesome, you need to hire me, you're lucky that I'm here. Nobody cares about that. What they really care about is, here's my goals, here's what I want to accomplish, here's what I'm expecting. How do the things you're really good at, do your experiences help me achieve those things? So we got to really make sure that we're clear on our value proposition. So I'm going to throw a pitch at a class. If you haven't taken Value Squared yet, find out where the next Value Squared is, either online or in person, and make sure you take that class, because that really dives into helping you figure out, hey, what am I so good at that people would be crazy not to work with me if that's what their goal was? All right. And I'll talk to Alana about maybe arranging for me to do a Value Squared Zoom class for you guys all too as well. And then what's the difference between fiduciary and functionary, which we'll go to the next slide. I ask lots of questions. Somebody take a stab at it. This tells me none of you guys have taken Value Squared. All right, we got somebody trying. Action versus responsibility. Fiduciary is a higher level of responsibility and watching for potential pitfalls. Okay. And then Yvonne hasn't heard about this yet, right? So basically, in a nutshell, it's this. Those first two responses were pretty close as far as Yvonne putting the needs of your. See, Yvonne, you lied to me. You do know kind of what this means, right? It is about acting in the best interest of the clients. The best way to put this simplified, though, is functionary is what we do. Fiduciary is how we do it. Because if I gave you guys a checklist of things to do, can you all do it? Yeah. But but the difference in how each one of you guys do it could be vastly different. And so think of it like this. If I go through an entire transaction and I check off every box on everything that needs to be done, did I do the best job for my client? Maybe, maybe not. They could have had higher expectations. They could have, I could have gone above and beyond on some of those things, right? And so really, in a nutshell, it's kind of like, hey, functionary is checklists. Fiduciary is how I do those things. And am I treating each one of those tasks like it was my own? Like my life depended on doing that to the highest level that I possibly could. Could I go out and arrange an inspection? Sure. At the end of the day, though, did I go out to the inspection to meet the inspector there? Did I go out and make sure that I was fully cognizant of each one of the things that they were potentially concerned about? Did I ask questions of the inspector to be able to relay better information to my clients on what some of those things mean And then did I articulate those things to my client so that I can help them make the best decision for themselves? Or did I just arrange to have the inspector go out and I got the inspection report back? Right? So that's really kind of the difference between those two things. All right. Any questions on functionary versus fiduciary? Because that's a really important part. All right. I take silence as you guys are good. Dual agency is when an agent represents both the buyer and seller. And then remember your fiduciary commitment to your client. Let me ask you this. Lots of people do, and I'm not telling you not to do it or to do it or any of those things. Everybody runs their own business in their own way, right? But if you're representing, what's your fiduciary duty for the most part to a buyer? Really boils down to about three things.
Confidentiality.
Confidentiality, definitely one. Submitting offers is kind of close there, Alan.
Get the lowest price you can for them and negotiate repairs.
Okay.
Client interests.
Yeah, all those stuff are great answers, right? So basically, for most buyers, what they really want is I want to get the best price with the best terms with the least amount of hassle, right? Honesty is definitely a big thing as well too. If I am representing a seller, what does a seller want? It's almost identical. Yeah, Alan, really, that's the only difference, right? They want the best terms with the least amount of hassle, but they want the most money that they can get. Anybody see a potential conflict there? I see Brian shaking his head, right? I'm trying to get one person the best price with the best term. I can probably handle the hassle part, right? Best terms and best price for the seller, best terms and best price for the buyer. Really hard to actually do that. And so just need to be careful with the dual agency because, even if I'm a Boy Scout and I'm the most honest and ethical and loyal person in the world, I can maintain confidentiality. I can create the least amount of hassle for both parties. But can I truly get each party the best price and best on each side with the best terms on each side? It's kind of like an attorney. If somebody was suing me, would I want the attorney that was representing the plaintiff to also represent me? Be really, really hard, right? And so we just need to be careful, I think, sometimes with dual agency, because we got to remember our fiduciary duties. And can we really do the best for our buyer, and can we do the best for our seller if we're trying to do both of those things? Because for me to get the highest price and for me to get the lowest price, that's pretty hard, right? Sometimes we get lured into those things, and sometimes we kind of waver on our judgment because, hey, if I get both sides, I get both commissions, not just one. I double my money. That's awesome. But are we really doing the best job for our clients? And again, remember, the clients need to come first because the fiduciary part of the transaction is the most important part. Okay. So how do we set expectations with people? Oops, click one too many. What's the best way to set expectations with people? Explain the process ahead of time. That's great, Shandy. Tell them what is going to happen up front. Ask questions. I love that, John. You're my favorite person right now. We got to ask lots of questions. What do they want? Why do they want it? Why are those things important to them? All of the things that are being transparent and honest with them. I love that one, Stella, being realistic. Hey, you want too much money for your house. we're probably not going to be able to achieve your goals if you're expecting that. Or, hey, not saying that anything's impossible, but you're asking for like a needle in a haystack and buying that house because the price that you're willing to pay is probably not going to get you that. And if we overpromise and underdeliver, who looks bad? We do. So we need to really set expectations on, one, asking lots of questions. What do they want? What do they expect? Two, being transparent and honest with them on our feedback on the things that they want and expect. Three, telling them what our expectations are to help them be successful in achieving their goals. And then I think what's really important is the fear most people have in selling a house or buying a house is what's going to happen next. So here's the process. And after we get through this, here's what's going to happen next. And then once we get through that, here's what's going to happen next. So that way they have a clear expectation of the road that you're taking them, because this is a journey, right? All right, so here's part of the expectations process. Hey, here's what's going to happen during this transaction. You're going to partner with an agent as a buyer. You're going to get pre-approved for a loan. We're going to set clear search criteria. We're going to help you find your new home. We're going to make an offer. We're going to negotiate terms. We'll get under contract. We're going to coordinate the vendors to help with the inspections and things like that. We're going to negotiate once the inspections come back to make sure that the house is in the condition we need it to be in for you to be able to move in. We're going to get the house appraised to make sure that the value is there. And then we're going to prep for close, and then we're going to close. And then I'm going to follow up with you because my job is to help you live beautifully in the home you buy, not to buy the house, right? The buying the house part is just the process, but at the end, our goal is to really help them live in the home, right? And so I'm not going to just explain this to them up front. I'm going to explain it to them up front, but then we're going to really dive into deep each part of those processes as they come up, so they're totally clear on what the roadmap is and what they can expect next. Because nobody likes surprises, especially in a real estate transaction. And then we're going to set time expectations, right? So if we take a look a little bit at that, how do we best set time expectations with people?
Say it up front.
Say it up front. Here's typically how long each one of those processes is going to last. And if you don't know because you're a newer agent, reach out to the agents in your market center and kind of go over each one of those things about how long it takes for each one of those things to happen. That way there's realistic expectations on how long things are going to potentially take. Hey, you know what? It takes about a day or two to get a pre-approval. Hey, it takes, a day for us to really figure out what you want. Hey, it's going to take a day for us to go find some of those homes that fit your criteria. Depending on how many homes, it's going to take X amount of days to go and tour some of those homes. Here's what the offer process looks like. Here's how long it typically takes to negotiate. Once we get into contract, here's how long it typically in escrow lasts. And one of the things that we can help alleviate some of this stuff with, which I was taught by a great mentor of mine, hey, once we got into contract, we had calendars created that had all the contingencies dates on the calendar for them, so they knew exactly when things were going to happen next, and we didn't miss deadlines. It helps keep you on track, and it helps keep them on track too, so there's less questions for you. And why is having less questions important? Not that we don't want to answer questions, but why is having less questions important for people?
Because it removes hesitation.
It removes hesitation. That is great, Alan. Right? John is taking care of it. John's answering all my questions before I even have those questions. And that builds trust, and that builds confidence, and that creates a sense of security and ease, which all these people are looking for. Right? All right. We set document expectations on how long documents and things like that are supposed to, typically take as well. Hey, here's when these documents need to be back. Hey, here's when these documents need to be signed by. Hey, here's how long we have to potentially receive certain documents. Because when you get into a contract, if somebody says, hey, why hasn't that seller sent this back? Why hasn't that seller sent this back? Well, in the timeline of the contract, if it says that they have 3 days to get that document to you and it's only been like 2 hours, you need to cool your jets a little bit. We went over this. The seller has 3 days to get this to us. We don't know what's going on in their life or their world. And, if it gets to the point where it's getting close to those 3 days and we haven't seen those things come back yet, we'll definitely make sure that we take care of that. And so I'm not going to go bug the other agent for, hey, it's been 2 hours, where's this stuff at? But I might set expectations with the other agent on, hey, when do you think we might be able to receive these back so I can let my client know? Right? So it works on a lot of levels as well, too. All right. We talked a little bit in depth about setting communication expectations already with both buyers and sellers, so I don't think we need to necessarily go over that. Making sure that we're setting the contingency expectations, which kind of goes with the paperwork. Again, one of the best things I think that you can do is I like that, John, not a bad idea to explain how the weekends or holidays might affect the timeline as well. 30-day close of escrow, but it happens during Christmas week, and offices are closed on Christmas Day, offices are closed on New Year's Day. We might not need to tag an extra 2 days on our expectation because this was supposed to close January 3rd, but we're going to be missing two holiday days in between there as well, too. And there's nothing we can necessarily do about it because if the escrow company or the title company is closed on one of the holidays on when we're supposed to actually close escrow, or the county, right? It's not going to happen. So the easiest way to set contingency expectations is, like I said, when you get into contract, take a look at the contingency dates and then put a calendar together on when all those things occur. Because then then there's less hesitation there, and there's less fear about a lot of those things. Other things too on why expectations are important. How many of you guys like getting a phone call from a buyer or a seller at 7 o'clock at night or 6 o'clock at night when you're having dinner with your family? I don't think any one of you guys are being really quiet and nothing's popping into the chat box. So I don't think any of you guys are super excited about people calling you during those times. And one
I got
of
a
the
good story
ways,
for you.
yeah, for sure.
John, I got a good story. I had a client that didn't like to leave messages, and so he would call and I wouldn't answer. Then he would call and I wouldn't answer. Then he would call and he wouldn't answer. So my wife picked up the phone and started yelling at him like, he's not coming to the phone. Leave a message. It was kind of terrifying and liberating at the same time. I was like, thanks, honey. You did what I should.
I agree, Brian. And how we can avoid that is just, again, by setting those expectations, right? Vincent says he's excited, but he's brand new. That's going to get old really fast. Right? Hey, I'm doing something with the family or the friends, and I got a client blowing up my phone. Where if I relayed when we communicate, how we communicate, if I gave them all the information before they had the question, now they're reassured and they're bothering us less. Right? You're still going to get some of those people. One of the things that I always tell people is, or at least when I was in production, that I used to do with people is, hey, here's the hours where you can reach me. And during these other hours, I'm negotiating contracts. I'm making sure that I'm managing transactions. I am doing all of these things to make sure that my clients are supported and taken care of. Now, if I'm working on your transaction, I would think that you would appreciate that I'm not being distracted while I'm trying to make sure that we get things closed for you. And so this is the times that I'm available, and make sure that you reach out to me during one of those times. If it now, on the flip side, if it's, if it's a situation that you need immediate response on, just maybe text me saying, hey, urgent 911 call. I need information on this particular thing. And then I'll make sure that I do my best to accommodate you to get answers to you quickly. Right? All right. Set up-to-date market expectations on what's going to happen what's happening in the market. Because a lot of times, hey, I think I'm going to be able to close in 30 days. Right now, yeah, market matches that. If we're in a buyer's market where stuff sits on the market for 90 days and somebody wants to close in 30 days, hey, that might be unrealistic unless we come undervalue so much that people will will get into contract quick. So we gotta also set expectations for our people on what's going on actually in the market and what that means for the transaction that they're looking at doing, right? And then one of the ways that we can also set expectations seamlessly with KW Tech, I know that we have the tech session on Thursday, so I'm not going to dive into this too much, but ultimately we can automate some of those things, right? So in our command, we can go in there and we can do automated client updates on things that are happening during the transaction so that they'll get an email update when things actually get completed. That way, there's just less time that they're having to worry and less time that they're having to want to bother us during times where we don't want to be bothered because we have the automated system to be able to do that. So make sure that you show up on Thursday because there's a lot of great stuff that you can do inside of Command or potentially whatever other technology that you might be using to automate some of that process with your people. All right. So 3 steps to gaining referrals. One of the things that we always want to do is we want to make sure that we provide value, that everybody feels like, hey, what John does is above and beyond what I expected, and he's really taking care of me. And then once we do that for people, they're good. Hey, you know what? I really value working with clients like you. You're amazing, you're friendly, you're good people, and I like to work with good people. And just wanted to ask you, is there anybody that who's like yourself, who I might be able to help do the same thing that I did for you, for them as well too? And when you help people, when they feel valued, and then when they feel that they've received value, they're going to want to help you out as well too. So this idea of asking for referrals doesn't need to be some sort of like scary thing or odd thing or hard thing. We build trust. We know people value us. We value them, and we're basically asking them for help. And for the most part, unless you're really an evil person, when you need help, do people typically want to help you? So we got some chat responses coming in. Yeah. Hey, man, end of the day, even if I don't really know you that well, if you need help and I can do it, I'm going to do my best to try to help you. Especially if you've provided value to me. You've taken care of me. You supported me. You helped me achieve my goals. You've done it in a manner or a way that I couldn't have asked for anything better. Yeah, I want to do whatever I can to help you, right? And then we need to make sure that we reward people when they do send people our way, right? So the key, if you want to get a lot of referrals, do a great job for the people that you work with. And when you do a great job for the people that you work with, hey, I need some help in continuing to grow my business. Is there anything you could potentially do to help me? Yes, cool. And when they do, hey, you know what? I'm gonna take you out to dinner tonight. Or hey, you and the spouse go out for dinner tonight on me. Here's a gift certificate to your favorite restaurant, or here's a bottle of wine, or whatever. But really show that you value them and that you're thankful and you have a lot of gratitude and appreciation for them trusting you with those referrals. and reward them for that. And those referrals will keep coming back. Okay. Also make sure that when we work with buyers and we do a great job, we're asking for reviews. When's the best time to ask for a review? Closing could be. Any other times? Closing? During the transaction. Yeah, Yvonne. Closing is always a great time. Usually people are super happy at those times. If we didn't do a great job necessarily, we might not get a review at closing. And Taranya, I hope I didn't butcher your name. That's really a great one too. Whenever they tell you thank you for a good job during the transaction. So there's multiple points during a transaction where it's okay to ask for a review. If they're thankful, or if you just achieved something or surprised them with something that they weren't expecting and they're really, really happy. Hey, again, I love working with you. You're so amazing. I'd rather work with great people than people I don't like. And, you know, if you feel like I've been providing a great experience for you, I would really, really appreciate it if you can leave me a review and share kind of what your experiences with me have been, right? So I think anytime during the part of the transaction, if they're super, super excited and stoked about what you've done, that's a good time to ask for a review. Sometimes closing actually isn't the best time because now that we've closed, hey, you know what? We got to arrange the moving trucks. We got to move in. We're super busy. We got all of these other things. And so, yeah, I'll get to it. Yeah, I love you, but, you know, I forget about doing it, right? So, yeah, anytime where you feel like you've provided exceptional service and they show gratitude towards that is a good time to ask for a review and a referral too. And here's a quick little script that you guys can use to send out or to verbally tell people on how to ask for referrals. If your purchasing or selling experience exceeded your expectations, would you be so kind as to give me a brief review? I'd also like your permission to use this in my advertising and marketing, right? And so, you know, making sure it doesn't need to be like hard, or it doesn't need to be cheesy, or it doesn't need to be salesy or anything like that. Just, hey, you know what? My business, I love doing business with referrals. Nobody likes, you know, going out and being sold, or nobody likes going and feeling like they have to like try to convince strangers or people they don't know to potentially do business with them. My business depends on providing great value to my people, who then in turn want to share that value with people that they know. Experience with me, I'd really love it if you can share that with me, and can I share that with people that might be potentially thinking about working with me as well, right? Because again, people want to help people out, so just ask them. All right, seller reviews. So buyer reviews, we want to make sure we get both of those things in when we're working with either buyers or sellers as well. Okay, so that really takes us to kind of like to the big part of the first part of the session here. We're going to take a quick 5-minute break. But before we go, I'm not letting everybody off the hook yet, right? Because we have to share what we've kind of learned in this section as well too. So before we go to break, I need 3 people, either in chat or to unmute yourself. So some of the ahas that you had from the first section here. Or you're going to break my heart because you're going to tell me that you didn't learn anything.
I like what you said, where you said people don't want to sell. They want to sell because of something else.
Yeah. There's always another motivation behind what they want to do, because it's not to buy a house. It's what they want to do in that house. It's not to sell a house. It's what they want to do with the money from the sale of that house, right? Got a couple other in the chat box asking more questions and digging deeper, going above and beyond and setting expectations. for yourself and for them as well too. And then the value of clear communication. Those are all some really great ahas. I like the 3 levels of service definitely as well too. Making sure that you break down the transaction process, super key for both buyers and sellers too. All right, so just to give you guys a chance to go maybe grab something to drink and do a little bio break if you need to. We're going to take a quick 5-minute little break here. So it's 6:57 and some change. So basically, I'll say it's 6:58. So we are going to be back on Zoom with or without you at 7:03. All right, at 7:03, we are getting ready to launch back up. So if you took a little longer on your bio break or getting something to drink or eat, we're starting without you. All right, so let's take this of the process. Now we talked about success with just clients in general. We'll go over some of the specific things with buyers, sellers, and co-agents in this last little part here. Okay. So this is the things that buyers want most from their agent. And it's important to pay attention to this because as we're thinking about what value do we provide to our buyers, this is the thing that most of buyers value from their agents. So we should probably make sure that in our value proposition that we have with our buyers, these are the things that we address because this is what a majority of the people want. So overwhelmingly, over half of the buyers that were polled by NAR in 2021, they said they want help finding the right home to purchase, which might surprise some of you guys, because ultimately buyers can go on Zillow, they can go on websites, they can, and a lot of them are, they're searching for properties. But at the end of the day, you're the expert, right? They might see a great house and get excited, but this is why it's so important to know what their goals are and why they want to buy, because maybe this isn't in the neighborhood that they are really desiring. Maybe it's not close to the amenities that they want. Maybe it's not in the school district that they're looking for. We need to be their advocate to really make sure that we're not just selling them a home, but we're selling them a lifestyle. So we want to, so they depend on us for those things. Right? Because cool, right? They can go out there and search that stuff on their own, but do they intimately know why it is a fit for them or not for them? So we need to really do a great job of making sure that we're helping them find the right home that is going to allow them to live the life that they want by being in that home. Second is other. I don't know what to explain to you guys on the other part because, well, you can't provide other to people. That's why you got to ask good questions so you can find what's important to those people. Next in the poll is helping the buyer negotiate the terms of the sale. And so being a great negotiator, or maybe in my value prop, part of that is maybe I discussed part of my experience in being a great negotiator and getting people great values on buying their properties, right? Or not just values, but great terms. And then the last part was help with the price negotiating, right? So, which I think is kind of funny, is most buyers understand market value. I got to pay X amount for a house. And you're not going to magically be able to get me a 20% discount on a house when I got all these other people, especially in the market that we're in right now. Because ultimately, is it hard in most markets to get a seller to come down on price when they got a bunch of higher offers? Yeah, that's a little bit tough. Where do we have some opportunity? We can typically have some opportunity in terms, right? And that's what most of the buyers that were polled said, is they actually said that they wanted help with terms more than they wanted help with price. So being able to do those things at a high level as well too is really great. So can I ask if this chart can be shared on social media? Yeah, I think these slides are in your folder for the class. If not, if you go to KW Connect inside a command, or you can go to kwconnect.com. You can basically pull out the slide deck for the Ignite series, and then you can take these slides as well too. Okay. And this is not just available, the slides are not just available to the instructors for this class. Anybody that has access to those things can pull those slide decks off. So one of the big things that we need to do is do buyer needs analysis, right? And we can, what I would do is I would just, to make it easy, that way I don't forget questions to ask. I'm going to put a list like this together, and you can kind of see an example on the slide there yourself, right? But that way I make sure I don't miss asking a question that I really want to ask. That's one of the things they ask us MAPS coaches to do when we get into MAPS is they drill us like every single week for like 4 or 5 weeks when we're getting ready to be a MAPS coach is, hey, write 50 questions that you would ask a client this week, right? And so kind of the same thing here. Hey, who's going to be living in the home? Who are all the adults? Who are all the children? Who are the pets that are going to be inhabiting the space? What do each one of those people need? Why is it important to them? Hey, what are the non-negotiables in your home? What can you absolutely not live without? And then I want to go deeper even there. Hey, we have to have at least a 4-bedroom, right? I got 3 kids, aren't going to be able to make it unless they have their own bedroom, and because they're going to drive each other crazy. I'm going to kill them. So we have to have at least 4 bedrooms. Cool. Hey, you know what? Would you be open to, or would you consider potentially a home? We'll do our best to find that for you. But what if we find a home that meets all of your criteria that has 3 bedrooms and a den? Basically, that just means that one of the rooms isn't going to have a closet. Could that potentially work for you? Well, yeah, in that case, I guess it could. We can get an armoire, or we could get some, some dresser space, so that could work, right? Or one of our kids is a little bit younger, or a baby, they maybe don't need a big closet. So yeah, that actually would work. Cool, right? That way you're finding everything that you're leaving no stone unturned, right? Hey, if you had to name your top 5 non-negotiables, what would they be? What would be the most important thing that you just couldn't survive without if that wasn't in the home? All right, beyond your top 5 needs, what's something you really want? We're going to try to get you everything you want. So let's focus in on what you really, really need. Like, that's a deal killer if you couldn't do that. But what do you really want? And we're going to try to make sure that we get a little bit of both, right? Hey, is there any preference for the year your house was built? Do you want something newer, or do you want something a little bit older, right? Hey, do you want a house in move-in condition, or are you willing to do some work? When people visit your home, what do you want it to say about you? Like, what's the feeling you want to get when people walk in? Are there any specific features that would make your next house feel like a home? And will you require any accessibility options? So these are all just some sample questions, and you can add to these things. You can modify some of these things, or hey, if I'm just getting started out and I don't know, hey, I'll just take what's here. But this will help you, and that's what I would say, kind of like what I told you that they do with MAPS coaches when they become coaches. Just maybe practice, once a week. Hey, what are 5 questions that I should know about a buyer? Right? And then write those down, and then modify and tweak and refine those things so that when you go on to these buyer presentations, you really, really get good at finding out what the buyer's hopes, goals, and dreams are for making this purchase. Okay. All right. Buyers' lives change, or buyers' worlds change. What do you think that means? Why is this slide on here?
Well, I've heard the term buyers are liars, because sometimes they end up liking something or changing their minds, but from the initial time you do the questionnaire with them.
Yeah, buyers aren't really liars. At the end of the day, maybe they just don't know what they don't know, or they aren't really quite sure. And hey, you know what? This person said they wanted a 4-bedroom, but they ended up buying a 3-bedroom, but we got to ask those good questions. We got to find out what's important to them. And even though they might tell us something, sometimes things can modify, or sometimes things can change. So ultimately, if we get into a situation where we do a needs analysis with somebody, some of that stuff might change. So we got to constantly we don't just ask questions up front. We ask questions during the transaction, because a life could change. Maybe, you know what? I find out that my wife just got pregnant. We're going to have another kid. That's going to modify or potentially change what we're looking for in a home. It's not that I lied to you. It's just life changed, or maybe my world changed. Maybe, I got a different job, or now I have more money. I could afford something different, or maybe I have less money and I can't afford as much anymore, or maybe I got a job transfer. So we always need to be making sure that we don't just ask questions up front, but we're continually asking, especially if we're not getting a result from somebody that we want. Hey, what's changed? And how does that affect you? Okay. We should, I see Yvonne put in there, we are on this section 2 on working with buyers, as far as that goes. Okay. All right. Tough conversations equal fiduciary conversations. Why are fiduciary conversations tough? Remember what I told you what fiduciary means. Why is that tough?
Because people don't like to hear the truth.
A lot of times people want to hear, what they want to hear. They don't want to necessarily hear the truth, right? And I know some agents that don't want to tell the truth because they want to make sure that they're keeping their client happy. At the end, though, does it really keep our client happy? Hey, Mr. Seller, sure, we can get $1 million for your house when it's only worth, $900,000. And I'm saying that because I want you to sign the listing agreement with me, because even though I know it's probably not going to sell for $1 million, if you get into contract with me, eventually I'll convince you to come down in price. Does that ever make anybody feel good? Not really. Even if that seller comes down in price and we sell their house, they're going to feel like it was a very good, kind of situation, because I had told them we can get $1 million and we ended up having to sell for 900. And I feel like my agent lost me $100,000. Right. And Shandy said that she had an agent a long time ago do that to her, and it's not good. It's always best. Again, if you need to make a super, super important decision in your life, and you're seeking guidance and you're seeking assistance and help from somebody, do you want them to sugarcoat things and tell you what you want to hear? Or do you want to hear the reality on what they think to help you make a better decision, even though you might not like what they say? You want the truth, right? So that's why these conversations are tough. And we got to be tougher so that we make sure that we really support and take care of our people. Transparency is super, super important. And that's happened to me several times in my career. Somebody wants a lot for their house, more than what I know that they're going to be able to get for it. And I got to be honest with them. And even if it means that I lose the listing because somebody else will tell them what they want to hear, it's important, because like I said, what happens a lot in those situations is I sell less than I expected to get, and you told me we can get it, and we didn't get it. And even though we closed the transaction, I'm never using you again, and I'm never referring anybody to you, because I don't think that you did a great job as an agent. But John was honest with me, and that's where he actually said I should be. Flip side of that too, I've had a lot of those situations where I lost listings because I was transparent and honest, and I was going to stand by what I said, because I'm an expert at what I do. And somebody blew some smoke towards somebody else, and they went with them. House didn't sell. Guess who they're calling when the house doesn't sell? Because they know that I was honest with them, right? So super important. Show homes based on a needs analysis. I'm not going to show you what I think that you should see. I'm going to show you homes based on what we talked about in the needs analysis, right? And so, because the thing that really pisses buyers off a lot is, why are you showing me this house? We can't remotely even afford this thing. Or, hey, I told you these are the things that were my non-negotiables. Why are you showing me this house? That's why we got to dig deep into those questions, because, cool, Mr. Smith, I'm showing you that, and it's okay if we kind of bend off the needs analysis a little bit, because I'm going to say something along the lines, kind of going back to the example I gave you. Hey, Mr. Smith, the reason we're taking a look at this home, I know you said you needed 4 bedrooms. This one has 3 and a den. that we could probably convert stuff to, and because it's priced a little bit lower, it'd be easier to convert. It'd be really easy to add a closet and convert this into a room, and it has everything else that I thought you might want to look at. Are you open to going and taking a look at it? Yes. Cool. Right. But if we don't ask those questions, we don't know. And so we need to make sure that we really dig deep on those needs analysis questions, and that we make sure that we're matching what we learn from those to homes that are actually available, because you're not going to make a buyer more mad more quickly than showing them things that have nothing to do with what they said that they wanted. Right. So here are a couple showing homes best practices for you guys. Show only the best properties for your buyers, right? Have MLS listing with pricing information and key details included with disclosures, because ultimately what we really want to do is our job is to help them, provide them with the information and experience that they need so they can make an informed decision that's going to help them achieve their goals. And if we can do that, we win. Mark the properties on a map and answer location questions so they know where each of these properties are at. Make sure you're knowledgeable about property and neighborhoods. Super, super key. Because, give you an example, I just talked about this the other day in a class that I was teaching. If I walk into an open house and agent A, if I ask them, hey, tell me a little bit about the school system here. What school would my kid go to? What amenities do they have there? What's the school known for? That's really important to me. Is education's super, super important to my kid, right? And agent A says, hey, those are really great questions. I'm not 100% sure on the answers to you guys, but I'll go out there and I'll get the information that you're looking for, and I'll get that to you as quickly as I can. Is that an acceptable answer? We got something popping in the chat. All right. Yes, it is an acceptable answer. Is that the best answer? Let me run that scenario through you again. Same buyer goes into the next open house and asks the same question to the next agent, and the agent says, yes, they're going to go to Smith High School. One of the things that they're really, really known for is they have an international baccalaureate program there, which is generally considered a little bit more prestigious than the AP. So if academics are is what you're really, really interested in, by far the best school in the area. In addition to that, I'm not sure if your child plays sports or anything like that, but last year's football team won the state championship. It's an state recognized award-winning school, and that's one of the big draws that bring people to this community. As a buyer walking into both of those scenarios, which agent do I feel is more knowledgeable about the market and about the area and is going to be able to help me live beautifully in my home? Agent 2, right? And Catherine, I see what you say there. Everyone's opinion is different. I'm not talking about being opinion-based. I'm talking about being knowledgeable about factual information in the neighborhoods, right? Because, hey, schools are schools, and you could sit there and say, hey, we had a better experience at this one, or we had a better experience at this one. But if a school won a state award and another school didn't, is that facts that I can relay to somebody? If one school won a state championship in any sport or any debate kind of competition and the other one didn't, is that a factual thing that I could state to people, right? So, yeah. Cool with the opinions, and there's some merit to that. But if I know the ins and outs of each neighborhood, I know where the best place to go to get Mexican food is. I know where the best place to go to get Italian food is. I know where the closest hospital is. I know the stats and the facts about the schools. And somebody comes in and asks me questions about those things, and I don't have to go find the answer because I already know it. It just instills confidence in that person, in me, more than the other agent. The other agent's response was perfectly acceptable. And I'm not telling you guys to lie and pretend like you know stuff that you don't know. That's exactly the response I would give if somebody asked me a question I didn't know. But I don't want to get into a situation where I can't answer those questions about a neighborhood I'm supposed to be the expert in, right? So make sure you do some homework before you go out there and work with buyers in a particular area or hold open houses in a particular area. Make sure that you have comp sales available to answer pricing questions. And this is why it's really important to go and see properties before maybe you actually even show them to your buyers, because, hey, I've been in this house before. Here's the things you're going to like about it. Here's the things that maybe there's a potential concern about. Now I'm really doing my due diligence and going above and beyond before I actually go out and look at the property. Because had I gone out and looked at the property, somebody that told me that they were looking for some peace and quiet in a relaxing, quiet neighborhood, and I go show them a house that's next to train tracks. Oh, I didn't know it was next to train tracks. Well, that kind of sucks, right? So making sure that we are as knowledgeable as we can about our product that we're selling, super important. Okay. Showing homes means agent interaction, which we kind of talked about that. We have to engage. We have to know all of that information so that we can relay stuff back to people. It's not just going through and touring homes. It's, hey, here's what I like about the home. Here's what I don't like about the home. Here's what's great about the neighborhood. Here's what's maybe not so great about the neighborhood, right? And a great thing that I think you guys have an opportunity to do that I always tell people is awesome. Let's say I'm going and holding an open house in a neighborhood that I'm not super familiar with, right? One of the things we always say is to go knock, on 50 doors or so of the neighbors to invite them to the open house. And one of the questions that I always used to ask people when I would knock on their doors to invite them to the open house is, hey, listen, you live in the neighborhood. How long have you lived in the neighborhood? Oh, I've lived in the neighborhood for 10 years. That's awesome. So you must really like it here. Yeah, it's great, right? Well, I'm sure that a lot of buyers are going to be coming through the open house, and I'd really like to be able to say some of the great things about what the neighborhood and the community offers. Hey, what's your top, 2 or 3 things that you really like about living here? And then that gets you super knowledge. One, you get to invite a neighbor to the open. You can establish rapport with those people, and you can then learn a lot about the neighborhood because you're talking to people that actually live there. So it makes you really smart. In addition, if somebody says, "Oh, I hate it here. I can't wait to move out," cool, I can help you with that, right? So a home tour toolkit. Here's some of the things that you should have as you go out on tour. Sanitizing wipes in case something's dirty or they're with a kid and they spill something. Some sticky locks. If you have some graphite, that can help you turn some of those locks a little bit better. Paperwork, because you don't want, hey, if somebody's ready to sign a contract now, you want to strike the iron while it's hot, and let's have the paperwork ready to go. Okay, maps, so they know how to get around. Masks if needed. Maybe it's a new construction home and there's a bunch of stuff flying around. First aid kit, shoe covers so we protect the carpets, flashlights, business cards, a level, umbrellas, tape measures. My first client was an engineer and he wanted to measure everything. Right, beverages and snacks. Office supplies, entertainment for kids, paper goods. These are all good things to have with you at all times when you're showing houses. And then safety first when showing homes. We always want to be safe. So make sure that you meet people in common places, like say the office, before you go on tour. That way people see who you're with. That way people know that you're showing houses to. They know that people have seen them. And if you feel uncomfortable, have somebody go on the showing with you, or have safety plans in place when you're going out and showing homes, because sometimes bad stuff does happen, right? Your job is to sell homes, not just show homes. So we, again, part of the thing is not the tour, but hey, here's what you wanted. This is a perfect match, I think, for you. What are your thoughts? Here's some reasons that buyers hesitate. They're afraid to commit. So asking good questions on, what do you think about the house? Are you ready to make an offer on the house? No. What are some of your hesitations, or what are some of the things that you don't like about the house? Just need to sleep on it. Okay. What do you need to sleep on? Like, really, what's the thing that's holding you back? Because ultimately, I don't want you to miss out on an opportunity by waiting a day and then potentially losing the house of your dreams. If there's something that we can kind of work through together. So find out what they're really afraid of when they are hesitant so that you can address that. Look at objections not as an objection or, oh my gosh, this person is driving me crazy, but it's an opportunity for you to really build their trust by finding out what their issue is and then helping them get through it. Okay. They don't like some minor details of homes, which sometimes are easily fixable. People just don't know sometimes, right? Oh, I hated the carpet. Cool. What would it look like if we put an offer on the house, asked for a concession so that you can get the carpets replaced? Well, that would work. Can we do that? Yeah. Awesome. Hey, you know what? I don't feel like I've seen enough homes. Well, if you find the house that fits all of your criteria, right? Do you really need to see anything else? Right? And maybe the answer is yes, and that's cool. And if it's no, well, this thing fits everything that you want. Do you really want to risk getting everything that you want by taking extra time to look at stuff that might not even fit your criteria, and then you end up not getting anything, then you might have to settle for something less. We already talked about sleeping on it as well, too. So some guidelines to facilitate decision-making. That's why we need to find out their motivation. Always go back to what they want. Look at the needs and the wants. Advise them in being a consultant of fiduciary. And that means having the tough conversations and being honest. Try to alleviate their fears if they have those, and you can. Solve their challenges. And if you solve their challenges, you're going to be a hero to them. And then calculate the cost of waiting. If this doesn't happen, what's that going to potentially cost you? Not just financially, but just emotionally as well, too. Kind of like the example I gave earlier. Hey, I don't sell my house. I don't get down to Florida. I don't see the birth of my grandchild, and I'm not there to help support my daughter when she has the kid. What's that cost? Not financially, but just emotionally. Oh, yeah, you know what? This buyer is asking me for a $3,000 repair. I don't want to pay it. That's why I'm thinking about blowing this deal up. This is going to delay me getting down to that house by another 2 or 3 months. $3,000's probably not really worth it. Yeah, I don't think so. Right. So doing the right thing and going back to their motivation and making sure that you're assisting them with making those decisions, super important. All right, what were some quick ahas from that section in working with buyers? I need a couple, or we're going to be on here longer than 8 o'clock.
I was surprised that negotiating price wasn't one of the biggest things that buyers are looking for.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like I said, in a buyer's market, that probably number's a little bit higher. Remember that thing happened in 2021 when there wasn't a whole lot of negotiating going on. So at least buyers currently, a lot of them realize they're going to have to pay market value. So what can we win? What else? Got some chat responses coming in. Home tour kit. Yeah, that's great. Needs analysis. Need to have one for sure.
Make sure to know the motivation of the buyer.
Yeah, knowing the motivation for any of your clients is super important. Okay, a couple other quick ones here, and we'll get you wrapped up for the night. Here's what sellers want. Not too much different, right? Number one was other. Again, that's where the needs analysis comes in because I don't know what other means. Number 2 was to help price the home competitively. They need help with pricing because they really don't know. Second one, and pretty close, is to help the seller market the home. And then number 3 is to help sell the home within a specific time frame. And then the last one, which is kind of tied with the other one, is help them find ways to fix up the home so they could sell it for more, right? So knowing how to price a home properly, knowing how to market a home properly, get it sold when they want to get it sold, and knowing how to maximize their sale by doing some things around the house. Those are the things that we should either, if not all, at least our value proposition should, relay that we're really good at one of those things or all of those things, right? So let's break down what sellers want as well. Seller needs. I want the best price in the shortest amount and sell it in the shortest amount of time with the best terms. That's really what they want, right? Kind of same thing. I'm not going to really spend too much time on the slide since it's really the same thing as the buyer's slide. Sellers are motivated because their lives change or their worlds change. Got a job transfer, got a divorce, spouse passed away, had kids left home. All of these things can motivate them to potentially want to sell. So here are some things that sellers can control, which is important to note. Because the seller can the seller determine the market price of their home? I'm not asking about asking price. I'm asking about can they determine what the market is willing to pay for their home? No. They can determine how close or they align the price of their house with what the market's willing to bear. So ultimately, they do control those things. So that's one of the big things we need to be able to advise them on is the proper price in relation to the market to help them achieve one of those goals, which is, again, price, terms, and speed, right? If I want to sell fast, where am I going to have to be on that price continuum? If I'm overpriced, am I going to sell fast? Or if I'm below market value, am I going to sell fast? Got some chat things coming in. Lower spectrum, right? Wholesale. If I'm willing to wholesale something, I'm going to sell it fast. If I want the most amount of money for my home, I might have to, wait a little while because we're going to have to look for a, potentially unique offer. If something's on sale or it's a bargain, everybody wants it. If something's overpriced, you might get somebody to pay that, but it's just going to take a while to find that. So that's what we need to really relay to our sellers is, again, finding out the motivations and finding the needs and finding out if the sell of their home, what they want for it, can it really help them accomplish what they want. And sometimes sellers don't even know. They just throw a number out there. And it's like, if I really break down, okay, hey, in selling this home, you want to put X amount for a down payment. You want to pay off some debt. You want to put, X amount of money in the savings. And you want to be able to pay the closing costs for selling your home and the closing costs for the home that you want to buy. And you want to pay off your prior mortgage. Okay, cool. In order to accomplish all of those things, you need 600 grand. Yet you're telling me you want to sell your house for 800 grand. What's more important to you, achieving all the things that you want or getting the 800 grand? And in some cases, people will sit there and say, well, gosh, I guess I didn't really think about it like that. If I can accomplish everything that I want at 600, that's more important to me actually than just getting some random number. So yeah, I mean, if I'd like to get a little bit more, yeah, I would, if I could do all that I need to do at 600, I would come down on my price. Right. Cool. Well, that helps us out a lot because if you want to sell fast, because you told me you want to be out in 30 days, we need to be low on that lower scale. If you want to be higher, then cool, we can go after some of that, but ultimately it might take longer to sell. Condition also affects that as well too, and sellers control that. If my home's pristine, I'm going to have a better chance to get it sold quicker. Because if two houses are identical and one's in mint perfect condition and the other one's a fixer, and they're both listed at the same price, the perfect one's going to sell first. So price and condition are things that the seller can control, and then that's going to ultimately affect the speed at which they sell it. Okay. So some sensitive seller conversations, some things that we want to be able to communicate with them. We need to make sure that we provide foundation for sustaining relationships, because not only do we want to sell their house, we want to help them buy their next house. We want to help them sell that house. We want their referrals. Again, same thing as before. We want to set and manage expectations. We want to create peace of mind for our clients. We talked about the importance of that already, so I'm not going to repeat it. And then we already talked a little bit about how this enhances your credibility. So some of these things are going to be a repeat of the buyer's agent stuff. So we're not going to necessarily go over or spend too much time on some of these slides. A couple things we need to keep in mind with sellers as well too. If a client violates fair housing laws, we need to make sure that we remind those people, and in some cases we might have to fire a client. So remind the client of their fair housing obligations under the Fair Housing Act. So we need to be familiar with that. So if a client's like saying, hey, this person is this religion and I'm not going to sell this house, well, you can't do that, right? So what you need to do is you need to remind them of the Fair Housing Act. If they say, okay, hey, I didn't know that, cool, we can do that, then okay, maybe I continue to work with you. If they are standing firm on something that's going to violate a Fair Housing Act, we need to discontinue representation of that client, because ultimately we're not going to put our license on the line because we want to sell this $3 million house to somebody who's actually breaking the law, right? You should report the incident to your broker immediately, document the situation, and consult an attorney if you need to as well too. Because the last thing that we want to do is have a client that basically, again, is breaking laws in selling their house, and then we get sued and potentially lose our license, if not worse, right? No commission is worth your reputation, so always remember the Y4C2Ts, win-win or no deal. Integrity is always doing the right thing. We always put our customers first. We always commit in the things that we're going to do. We always seek to understand with communication. We put the foundational things before results, right? We work as a team together to help achieve the goal that we want, because we're better together. Trust, again, is about being honest, even if it's not easy sometimes. We create opportunities for everybody, and then we get our results through people, okay? And if you compromise on any of these things, that could damage your reputation. And if you damage your reputation, I don't care how much the commission is worth. Cool, I'm willing to like look the other way and bend my ethics because I know I'm going to make 100 grand on this commission and I've never made that much before. I'll just let that slide. What damage do you think that could do to your future financial earning opportunity? Even if you don't get your license suspended because of something and taken away from you, and now I can't earn any money. Think about somebody sees what you're willing to do in order to close a transaction, and now the next person doesn't work with you. Or they tell somebody that person's not honest and that person's not ethical, I wouldn't work with them. It could be a whole lot more than a $50,000 or $100,000 commission. We could be talking about millions of dollars of lost revenue because you did the wrong thing rather than the right thing. Okay. 14-step marketing plan for listings. We always want to go after listings. And why? Why is it better to get listings than to work with buyers? Not that you shouldn't work with buyers, but why should we focus more of our lead generation time to get listings?
It's less time consuming.
Less time consuming because I don't have to go get in my car, drive around, show you a million homes. I go to your home, I list your home. Maybe I do some open houses. I can, they basically statistically, they say for every list you could potentially handle same amount of time. For every buyer you work with, you can handle about 4 listings. So it maxes my time more. What else? Buyers don't usually generate leads, because if I have a buyer, I work with a buyer, we close the house. If I have a listing, what happens? Buyers come to me looking for a house that I have listed. So one, you're going to get, as a result of having a listing, that's going to potentially get you more buyer leads than going out and looking for buyer leads on your own. And as was mentioned in there, that happened to me a lot. Buyer came in to an open house, maybe didn't want to buy the house that I had open, but I captured them as a buyer, and then we listed the home that they were in. So having that ability to have listings is going to generate more business for you as well too. So we want to make sure that we have a good marketing plan in place so that we can instill confidence in people, that we can help them. Because remember, this was like the second thing. They want help marketing their home. So how do we have a marketing plan put together, right? Now it says the message you put out to attract prospective buyers and sellers is everything. Why would they want to contact you in this market? What would they get if they did? These 2 questions are at the heart of all effective messaging. And this is where value stands out. We need to know our value, and we need to know how that's going to help best serve the people that are working with us better than anybody else. So those things should come across in a lot of our marketing as well. Your MLS listing reflects your brand, so get it right. This is the message we're sending out to other agents and to potential buyers is, hey, the listing's got bad photos. The listing's inaccurate. The listing doesn't describe the home very well. The disclosures aren't uploaded to the listing, right? What message is that sending to people? You do kind of a bare minimum job. And do I want a bare minimum realtor? Does that give me confidence? Not really, right? So we need to make sure that that's like our first impression with a lot of buyers and with our other agents that are our peers. And we want to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward. So making sure that you have all the documents you need for the listing in place, making sure that you have all the disclosures available for other agents and buyers to look at, making sure we use professionals to get great pictures and get floor plans put on the listing. So we're showing our home that we're listing in its best light. Super important, right? So don't be going out there with your iPhone taking pictures and putting those on the MLS. I looked at an MLS picture today, and the real estate agent was using their phone, and they took the picture in front of a mirror that actually showed the agent in the picture for the MLS photo, right? Super important. You can also import listing data directly from KWLS. So as you're doing flyers and postcards and social media posts, there's a way in command to where you can automatically get that pulled in to those flyers so that you're not having to upload and download those things. Again, the command session's on Thursday, so I'm not going to go over that today. Just kind of throwing a pitch out there to make sure you show up on Thursday so you know how to actually do this inside of command as well. Making sure we have proper signage. Again, best foot forward. We want to make sure that we have the signage that is allowed by the area, that clearly indicates who we are, who our brokerage is, complies with state laws, and helps us market the property the best. So make sure that you're following all rules there as well. And that's really kind of it in terms of working with buyers, working with sellers, making sure that we are getting the proper information out to our consumers and to the other agents to help us sell the house for them as well, and to facilitate ease in the transactions. Because let's not forget about that third party either. Not a lot about that talk in this session, but At the end of the day, we want to have a smooth transaction that's hassle-free for our buyers. We want to have a smooth transaction that's hassle-free for our sellers. But we also want to have a smooth transaction that is hassle-free for not just us, but the agent that's on the other side. Why is that important? Before we get into the ahas, why is it important to make sure? Now you might sit there and say, well, heck with the other agent, because ultimately they got to do their job. Why do we want to make life easy for the other agent? Potential referrals could be, right? What else? In a multiple offer situation, you want the other agent to know you do a good job, 100%. If we have good relationships with agents, it's going to make our lives easier, especially in markets that are smaller, right? Because everybody remembers how you treated them. Everybody remembers maybe the gray areas that you kind of like skated around. And as Paula says, reputation speaks volumes, right? If I have a good relationship with an agent, cool. Hey man, I'm having a really hard time with a buyer. They're looking for a specific house that just isn't on the market yet. Maybe I can call my agent friends, asking them if they have anything coming up soon that we might be able to get in early to see. And because I have a good reputation, and because those agents like me, and maybe because we've had transactions together where I really made their life easy and went above and beyond for them, not just for my client, but for them, to help them get the deal closed, they want to get into business with me. And they tell me about that house that's coming up that nobody even knows about yet. And I get my client in there early, and we get that offer accepted because we beat the competition. That's super valuable. And kind of like Paula had said, hey, you know what? If Paula and I are competing agents and we go to John's listing and let's say our offers are identical, like identical, everything, terms, price, everything's identical. I'm kind of a little bit of a jerk, and maybe I don't have a great reputation. Paula is the amazing, like pristine seller, the agent that everybody loves, and her clients' offers, when she makes an offer, they close on time, and they don't have any hassles, and she's super trustworthy. When John goes to his clients and says, hey, here's the offers, and they ask John, hey, they're exactly identical, like which one should we take? When they're asking John for his opinion, whose offer do you think is going to get pitched? Not going to be mine, it's going to be Paul's. So that's why we got to really make sure that, hey, you know what? Even though sometimes we look at other agents as our competition, and even though sometimes we look at other agents as maybe not being super helpful or whatever, we put our best foot forward with every agent that we work with because it matters, right? And you'll find out really quickly, especially like I said, if you're in a smaller market, how important that actually is. And that was kind of like my thing. I would never get mad if an agent wasn't doing their part. I went into every transaction just assuming I was going to have to do the other agent's job. And I was okay with that. Because at the end of the day, my job is to serve my clients and get the house closed. And if it means that I have to make some calls, or if it means that I have to do some things, or open doors, or do some things that maybe the other agent should do, or I got to constantly remind the other agent to get stuff done, I'm not going to be a jerk about it. I'm going to ask the agent, hey, you know what? Realize everybody's busy. We really, really need to get this taken care of right away. Anything I can do to help support you with that, right? Because I want the deal closed. Now, what that's telling me is maybe I don't want to get into a transaction with that person again, and I'm going to avoid that if I can. But on the flip side, if I do that for that agent, if I want to get into that transaction again because they're listing a house that my buyer really, really wants, if we got into an adversarial or a hostile kind of situation because they were a jerk on the last transaction, hey, I wanted to avoid getting into another deal with this person again, but hey, my client really likes that house. If we had animosity and if there was hostility and we were at each other's throats in that last transaction, what are my chances of getting in a transaction with that person again? Right? So I always got to take the higher road as well, too. Okay, cool. We got about 7 minutes left, so might get you out of here a couple minutes early, but I want to make sure that we get a few ahas overall from the evening. What were your guys' thoughts? What did you learn? Man, you guys just wasted 2 hours with me because you didn't learn anything. What do we got? Reputation speaks volume, be the expert in your area, knowing your market. Yeah, those are all really big, important things. Okay. Now, just want to remind you guys, okay, Paula puts in what you put into your work will be your results, 100% for every buyer. You can handle approximately 4 listings. Yeah, those are all really great things. So remember, there's work that you're supposed to be doing with these things as well, too. So make sure that you're making those 10 contacts a day. Make sure that you're going out and going to social media and liking 5 posts and commenting on those 2 posts and doing 1 DM with everybody. You're adding 10 contacts to your database every day. Because I can tell you right now, been in the business, like I said, 21 years. If you follow that model and that's all you do, you're going to have a great business. Because if you're consistently contacting and having conversations about real estate with 10 people every day, that's 50 a week. At the end of the year, you're talking about 250 plus conversations about real estate with people. You're going to get business. You're going to get referrals, right? If you're sending thank you cards for the people you have conversations with, you're going to become memorable. Right. And if you're adding to that database and repeating that process with the people that you connect with, you're not going to be able to help but get business. Right. Which I'll leave you with kind of a quote from some of you guys in Oregon will probably recognize the name Cody Gibson. Cody is the director of maps for Keller Williams. So he leads all maps coaches. Mega agent, has teams all over the country, in some other countries actually as well too. I was listening to Cody talk one time at Mega Camper Family Reunion, and he was talking about door knocking. And Cody, if you haven't heard him speak, is a really, really amazing speaker. And so everybody was thinking, Cody has these magic scripts. He knows exactly what to say. And I'll never forget it because it was just really so true and it was funny. Somebody asked him hey, Cody, when you knock on the door, what do you say to them to get you to really engage with them? And he just looked at the crowd and he said, I say hello. And everybody laughed, but he was like, seriously, I say hello. Because ultimately, if that's all that I say and they slam the door in my face, I leave that house, I go walk to the next house. And as I'm walking to the next house, I think to myself, well, that didn't really work. I got to say something else. And so then on the next door, he says, hello. And then he says his name. And then they slam the door on his face. Okay, I got to say hello and I got to say my name, but then I got to say something else. And the point of what he was really trying to get across to people is it's doing the activity. Because if you do the activity and maybe you don't get the results you want, you take the feedback that you get and you say, how could I have done that better? And how could I have done that better? It's practice. And then ultimately you're going to get really good at doing that activity because you're going to learn from your mistakes and you're going to get better and you're going to get better. Now, if that first person slams the door in my face and I don't go knock on any other doors because my feelings are hurt because I got the door slammed in my face, am I going to get better? And the answer really is no, right? So the more that we go out there and do the activities, we learn, we grow, we get better, and we're going to get better results. And if I knock on enough doors, even if I just say hello, if I knock on enough doors, somebody's going to want to sell their house, right? Because if I put a gun to your head and said, "Hey, listen, I'm going to pull the trigger on this if you don't get, a buyer or seller by the end of the day," and you would go mad dash and knock on as many doors as you possibly could, and if you knocked on as many doors as you possibly could, you'd find somebody. Right? The key is the consistency. So just want to thank you guys for spending the time with me. Had a really, really great time with you guys. I'm going to put my information in the chat. If you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'll do what I can to support you guys anytime that I can. It's johnmorris@kw.com. If you need to text me, I'll put my phone number in there as well too. And appreciate you guys. And not a lot, but I'm giving you guys about a minute and a half back to your night available as well too. Make sure you show up tomorrow. Make sure you show up for the rest of the class so that you can really get things going to start 2025 strong. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.